Were you told you were shy? Do you identify as shy? Do you hate that word now? Do you just wish you could get over it and get on with your life? Welcome to Shining Beyond Shy, empowering you to create a greater life than you ever thought was possible. With your Shining Beyond Shy host, Fiona Cups. Hi everybody, Fiona Cups here, your host for Shining Beyond Shy. And this week I'm calling the episode, Your Life, Go For It. I just made that on the spot. I knew the topic, but I didn't know the episode title, but I quite like that. I quite like Your Life, Go For It. So as shy people, we're often, that when I was really shy, there's no way in the world that sentence even meant anything to me. It's your life, go for it. For me, I was living other people's lives, primarily my dad's life, or primarily the life that my dad wanted me to lead. So I know I've talked about this before, but basically I chose first of all to excel academically because that was something that I could do. My brother was very good at sport. I mean, he's also very brainy. My brother could do it all. And whereas for me, it was the academia that I could do. So I pushed myself to do that. I loved French and German, and I would go off on all these crazy adventures. As they say in French, plus ça change. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. So here I am, years later, still going off on crazy adventures, as we know. So that part of me, that was part of the place where I had me with my crazy adventures. And I always managed to have me to a certain extent. Even so, the next thing I did was choose to become an accountant because that was acceptable to my dad. And that would make money and that was safe. And it's like there were sort of several safe careers. I think it was being a lawyer, being an accountant, or being a doctor. Neither my brother and I could ever have been a doctor, I don't think. But my brother became a lawyer. I mean, he resisted for a while. Strangely enough, he went on a crazy trip around Egypt, which is where I am now. And then at a certain point, I can't remember when, because, years later, you realize that having a few gap years, which is what my mum always used to say, he had so many gap years, doesn't really matter. I mean, does it really matter? No, none of this matters. But even if you believed in this kind of stuff, years later, we see it doesn't matter if you start your career when you're 21, 22, 23, 24, or 25. So my brother, I think, was more towards the 24, 25 when he chose to be a lawyer. And he stayed with it and still has a job that I think he quite enjoys. So, so we were both very good. I chose accountant, he chose lawyer. He was more successful than me. Even so, I did the right thing and started to be an accountant as soon as I left university at 22, I think. Anyway, this is all history. So yeah, I was living a life that wasn't my own, although I had these places and spaces where I was able to be me. And I remember really clearly when I was planning a crazy trip to South Asia, somebody a work colleague basically said to me, you know what, you would be better off having the life that you live all the time, i.e. the life in London or the life traveling around Europe, being an accountant, whatever it was, you'd be better off having that working for you than going away and stepping out of your life, having a good time for a while and having to come back to something you don't like. And that's really interesting because I get there's some truth in that. And actually, it also was true that me going off on these crazy journeys, I mean, at that time, I used to work for a while as an accountant, make good money, and then choose to travel or go mountaineering, go climbing. And in a way, it really worked for me because it's like the jobs that I had weren't your standard accounting jobs. It's like there I was in New Delhi, working for the Red Cross, zooming around South Asia, and there were things that I loved about it. But as you probably also know, there was a certain time when it all came crashing down, and although there were those parts of life. So for example, in South Asia, there were some things that were brilliant. It's like I had quite a high-powered job. I had a lot of responsibility, a lot of respect, and I was living in a beautiful apartment in a beautiful place. I was traveling to all these amazing places, able to have weekends and weeks away in Sri Lanka on the beach, in Nepal, going trekking. And yet there were things that were missing. I remember when I came back to England, I was so grateful to see my friends and have quote unquote normal conversations. And I had also just forgotten about my body, really, in certain ways. It's like, yes, I was into trekking, and I thought that I was looking after my body, but I wasn't really asking my body if that's how it wanted to move. Not at all, actually. So I was basically functioning from the head, the neck upwards. And what's occurred for me with the tools of access consciousness and Right Voice for You is that I have started to create my life for me. And like I said, I had no idea what that was. And when I first heard people talking about this in access consciousness, I have no idea how I'm going to do that. I've really no idea. I have no idea what's true for me. I mean, I have some idea. I had some idea. It's like part of my recovery journey was that I found that I love to sing, I love to dance. So I always know that I love to have that in my life. I know, I mean, I say still, I love nature. I mean, when I was in Montenegro and had a lot of time with olive trees and sea and rocks, I mean, I love that. Or in the desert here, oh my God, I love being in the desert and the pyramids. By the way, I have a lot of desert in my hair. For various crazy reasons, haven't been able to wash my hair since being in the desert or since being on the bus. Anyway, you don't need to know all those crazy details. So too much information on your podcast, Fiona. Okay, so yeah, there were aspects of my life and living that I had a sense of, but but here's the thing. Although I was confounded by it and had no cognitive idea how to do it, using the tools of access consciousness and asking for the energy of my life has led me to me having way more of the energy of my life than I ever thought possible. And one of the things that occurred for me very, very early on with access consciousness, so I had a couple of months before my bars class where I basically was asking a few questions a lot. So I was asking all the time, how does it get better than this? What else is possible? What else is possible that I haven't considered yet? I just loved those questions. I was asking them all the time. And what it quickly made me aware of was how much of my life I was zoning out. I wasn't present. It wasn't actually that great. And I guess up until that point, I believed that, well, it's a funny thing to say, I believed I was doing well. So I had chronic fatigue. I no longer had chronic fatigue, boom. But these very simple tools of access consciousness made me see how much of my life I was still zoning out and how much more was actually possible. So that kind of recovery to a baseline that most people think is great, it wasn't enough. And to be honest, my energy levels and what's possible, even at the age that I am now, are still going up and up. And I love that. I mean, I love that about access consciousness. So yeah, back to what I was saying, it's not a cognitive thing that I am creating my life in the way that works for me. It won't be cognitive. But what I'm noticing through using the tools is that it's occurring. My life is becoming way more of what I desire. And it's funny because when COVID hit, I had maybe 3 months of classes lined up in different places mainly in Europe. And I was kind of patting myself on the back It's like, oh, you're doing well as a certified facilitator. You've got all these classes coming up. You've got people signing up to them. You're creating money. You're enjoying yourself. But it was almost what I realized when they were wiped out from one day to the next. Well as realizing that I needed to diversify, which I am. What I realized was that I was creating because I thought that's how a CF should create. And it's not, I mean, I love traveling for classes. I've really enjoyed being in Egypt for the Right Voice for You classes and body classes that I've done. And I mean, it's a while up, apart from that I've done live classes, but I just love it. But I don't get that my life will go back to, well, first of all, we can't go back to anything, but I don't get that my life will literally be about moving from place to place every single weekend, doing different classes. I have many more income streams now, and it's really fun for me to have done classes in Egypt last weekend and to be here now, to be living my life here, doing my online creations of my different businesses. And it's funny because I caught myself, and this actually is how the idea of the podcast came about, because I sort of noticed what goes on in my life and what tools I'm using and what awarenesses I'm having. And what I realized was that I almost wasn't allowing myself to just be in Egypt, because I was like, no, I need to be doing my online businesses. I need to be doing this and making money and this and this and this, you know, just the kindness to me and all of that. And yet, I'm not saying that I want to be in Egypt for 6 months sitting on the beach doing nothing, but actually I'm really enjoying still being here. It's like I wouldn't, it's more fun for me to still be here than to have been here for 3 days doing my classes, a 4th day seeing the pyramids and flying back. Well, I mean, I don't have a home to fly back to, but that wouldn't be so much fun for me as a trip to a country like Egypt. But what I realized was that I've written a short ebook called Albania the Crazy, and I can see that there's going to be a follow-up ebook called something like Egypt, the Exotic and the Crazy. I'm already having very crazy adventures here. And when I realized, oh, I'm not just a certified facilitator, I'm actually a travel writer. And I'm looking now at how to get the first ebook out there. And I have another one, Montenegro, the Beautiful and the Crazy. It makes me laugh. It makes other people laugh too. And so I'm really looking at getting the first one out there. But I realized that in my head, it gave me the reason and justification for still being there. And last night I caught an overnight bus from Cairo to Dahab, which is kind of a hippie beach place in the south of Egypt. And it was almost like I wanted to keep it a secret from my Egyptian hosts, because I have a sense that they wouldn't do something like catch an overnight bus. They would catch a flight or be driven by somebody, and they may not come to a hippie beach. They may go to one of the more upmarket beach resorts. And it was almost like I wasn't allowing myself to have this. And my friend said to me, well, it's a fucking crazy adventure to go on a night bus. And I was like, yes, that's it, exactly. It's a real adventure. And it's like the first couple of hours on the bus, it was pitch black. And I have my data from my Egyptian phone. So I was just listening to music. And I was like, oh my God, I loved it. Just loved going along. And the bus was pretty empty. So I had space beside me, just listening to the music in the dark. I just loved it. And then we had all these checkpoints. And then, I mean, I slept pretty well last night on the bus as well. I just loved everything about it. And it's like, okay, that, I think it's almost like I wouldn't have allowed it, because as a CF, you know, you have to be in top class hotels wearing high heels, CF, certified facilitator, not on some random night bus with all your possessions around you. I was like, no, that's who I be. I love this. I love staying in Egypt after classes. And now I have the reason and the justification. I am a travel writer. And what if we didn't have to have any reason and justification for anything? And if you are listening to this and you are like I was, and you have no idea what the energy of your life is, almost no idea what that even means, that life has an energy, don't worry about it. And I'm going to, because starting to become aware that it's possible to live your life in a different way, in a way that works for you. Having that awareness is the beginning of it starting to happen. And I'm going to give you a couple of really practical tools, and they're so simple. Universe, show me the energy of my life. And when you ask that, the universe will do that. It will start to be like, hey, like with me, hey, Fiona, there's this night bus down to the coast. Or, yeah, when you're willing to be present and follow the energy. And what does that mean, follow the energy? It's like it felt really exciting and fun to catch a night bus to the coast. So I did it. And that's the energy of my life. So yeah, universe, show me the energy of my life. And then I would also suggest asking, what can I add to my life that will be fun? What can I add to my life that is the energy of my life and living? That's what I would suggest, and see how you get on with that. And yeah, don't judge yourself if this is all new to you. It's like, it's new to me, or it was new to me too. And I know I still have quite a way to go with this, to really craft, that's a nice word, isn't it? Craft my life as I would truly like to have it in all aspects. And I'm gonna have that. I'm making the demand of me that I have my life, or that my life continues to become more of me and my energy and my expression of me in the world. That's my demand of me, however that looks, however surprising that looks, and however different I am from other people. I am a bit different. And you know what? You are too. So what difference can we express in our lives, and how much fun can we have doing it? Okay, beautiful people, I will see you next week.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'm so grateful for you. It would be great if you could subscribe, great if you could even review wherever you're listening. And if you'd like some quick, simple tips to overcome shyness wherever you are, please go to my website, fionacuts.com, where you can download my free product, 5 Steps to Overcoming Shyness Wherever You Are. Thank you again, and see you next time.